Picture this. You're tired of living in that old starter base and decide to upgrade. You go out, gather a bunch of materials, and everything is going well. Until that is, you're faced with the question of where to actually build. There's just so many choices. What on earth is to be done? Well, fear not. Using a highly advanced scientific system known as rating stuff on a scale from 1 to 10, we're going to compare all the biomes across 5 different categories. Those being safety, convenience, ambience, resources, and style. Each category will be ranked from 1 to 10 with a score of 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Then everything is added up, and the biomes with the most points win. Alright, no more messing around, let's get into this. Coming in last place is the Crater Edge, with just 19 out of 50 points. I honestly expected this biome to do a lot better, considering it's the literal void, but perhaps quite unsurprisingly, the region suffers heavily in the safety, resource, and convenience categories. Great place for an observatory, and not much else. Next is the Crag Field. This biome gets a 6 out of 10 for safety and has a decent amount of resources, but everything else is a bit disappointing. Not much else to say about this one. Also coming in with a score of 20 is the mountains. This is similar to the Crag Field in a lot of ways. The terrain is super barren and it gets really dark at night. For underwater mountains, you might expect lots of resources, but everything is quite sparse. The main difference from the Crag Field are the Reapers, which causes it to gain points in style but lose some in safety. To the south, we have the Floating Island, which is extremely safe, yet both remote and resource-stricken. If you're afraid of the ocean, you might like it here. Otherwise, there are probably better options. Going from one of the highest biomes to the game's deepest, we arrive at the Lava Lakes, also boasting 22 points. While the region's geology earns it high marks in style and ambience, you can't go outside without burning. The only ore around here is kyanite, and getting up to the surface can quickly become a multi-day affair. Moving back up to the top, with a total of 23 points is the Crash Zone. The dark, murky waters of Subnautica's largest biome give it a low ambience score. The region contains plenty of titanium, so it gets a 6 out of 10 for resources. Unfortunately, the local Reaper population is a hindrance to the safety and convenience scores, but this is made up for in style. For players attempting to overcome their fear of Reapers, a base in the Crash Zone is simply a rite of passage. Sticking with the theme of sandy, Reaper-infested biomes, next up is the Dunes. The score here is very similar to the Crash Zone, with the Dunes being slightly safer and having the better visibility of the two. If you are looking to build here, there is a cool meteor crash site. Also with 22 points is the Mountain Island, one I expected to be a lot closer to the bottom of the list. While it's not the most exciting place in the world, the island's safety and resource-rich caves allow it to edge ahead of the competition. It also gives easy access to some of the alien facilities, so that's nice. Moving up another point is the Sparse Reef, which, despite the name, actually scores pretty well in resources. Combine this with the region's safety and accessibility, and you have one of the most practical locations in the entire game. Directly adjacent to the Sparse Reef is the Blood Kelp Trench. Stretching down to a depth of 675 meters, the trench is the deepest non-cave biome in the game, and one of its most unique. The biome is excellent in ambience and resources, and unlike its northern cousin, does not contain any ghost leviathans or crab squids, giving it a semi-decent safety score. The trench's biggest detriment is its convenience, with the narrow corridors making fitting a base down here quite difficult. However, you could alleviate much of this by building on top of the trench. Tied with the Blood Kelp Trench is the Grassy Plateaus. I've built multiple bases here, and have never been disappointed. It's safe, centrally located, and large enough to navigate the Cyclops with relative ease. However, The biome's atmosphere leaves much to be desired, and you'll have to look elsewhere for most resources. With a total of 28 points is the Sea Treader's Path. Often one of the more forgotten locations, the biome could be a good home if you're willing to give it a chance. It's relatively safe, barring a few warpers, and the sea treaders dig up an infinite amount of shale outcrops. It struggles the most in Ambiance, with most of the biome being relatively flat, but the sea treaders provide an experience unlike any other. The Inactive Lava Zone is one of the most resource-rich locations in the entire game. The unique environment also earns it high marks in ambience and style. Unfortunately, accessing the rest of the map can be quite time-consuming, and living with 2 sea dragons probably isn't good for your health. Back on the surface, we have a 4-way tie for 30 points. The first of these is the Bulb Zone, which scores reasonably well in every category except convenience. Not bad. Next up is the Safe Shallows. The vibrant coral reefs score highly in ambience and safety. Its location near the center of the map also gives it a high convenience score, with just one problem. The terrain is so shallow that it makes piloting a Cyclops through here quite difficult. Apart from that, you will have to travel a ways to get your resources, and it's not exactly the most original location. Then we have the Underwater Islands. Similar to the Bulb Zone, this area does quite well in almost every category. The biome's ambience is quite good, and it's a bit more accessible than some of the other regions. If you're looking to go mining, there's plenty of silver and uranite on the seafloor. Finally, we have the Jelly Shroom Caves, which get high marks in both ambience and style. The crab snakes can be a bit challenging, but they aren't too bad if you know to keep your distance. The only thing really hurting this biome is the lack of resources, with the caves being home to magnetite, gold, lithium, and not much else. Beating out the previous 4 by just a single point is the Grand Reef. This is one of the most balanced biomes on the list, scoring well in ambience, style, resources, and convenience. The only thing preventing it from being higher on the list are the ghost leviathans, warpers, and crab squids, which push down the safety score. Going into the top 5, we have the Northern Blood Kelp. What this biome lacks in safety and convenience, it more than makes up for in resources and ambience. If you decide to visit, you'll be sure to find warpers, crab squids, amp eels, ghost leviathans, and much more. As for resources, most materials can be found locally, removing the need for long trips, and the sheer scale of the place gives it an atmosphere that just can't be beat. Tying the Blood Kelp for 32 points is the Mushroom Forest. Both biomes are located in accessible locations, giving the region a high convenience score. The biomes themselves are quite safe, as long as you don't stray too close to the edge, and the atmosphere is very unique. Definitely worth it if you're looking for a good view. In third place, with 33 points, is the Lost River. Not a biome I expected to see so far up on the list, but the numbers don't lie. The fossil-ridden caves may just be the single best resource location in the game, and the ambience and style are both on point. If you can learn to live with the not-so-friendly neighbors, this might just be the place for you. Clocking in at 34 points is the Kelp Forest. The biome gets a 9 out of 10 for safety, with your only real danger being the stalkers. It earns full points for convenience, being both centrally located and deep enough to navigate a Cyclops. The ambience is also strong, being the right mix of alien and Earth-like to make you feel right at home. The only area the region loses out in is its resources. But that's going to be true with every starting biome, so I can't fault it too much. And topping out the list with 36 points is the Tree Cove. This place is simply stunning. It's the only biome in the entire game with 0 hostile creatures, making it the only underwater biome to receive a perfect safety score. As for the ambience, this is about as good as it gets, rivaled only by Below Zero's Crystal Caves in terms of sheer opulence. Similar to the rest of the Lost River, the Tree Cove has a healthy variety of resources, albeit on a slightly smaller scale, and any base here would perform very well in style. The only thing keeping the score from stretching into the mid-40s is the location. It's one of the most annoying places to access in the whole game, being neither close to the surface nor the alien teleporters. But with a view like this, I don't think I'd ever want to leave. Before we wrap up, let's take a second to look at the winners in each category. Safety is unsurprisingly dominated by the 2 islands, with the Tree Cove also managing a perfect score. Convenience was won by the safe shallows, Grassy Plateaus, and Kelp Forest, scoring 8, 9, and 10 points respectively. The Tree Cove leads in Ambiance, followed by the Northern Blood Kelp, and a 2-way tie between the Grand Reef and Lost River. Resources were won by the Lost River, the Inactive Lava Zone, and both Blood Kelp biomes. Finally, the Void, despite finishing last overall, scored 10 out of 10 in style, followed closely by the Crash Zone, Lava Lakes, and Tree Cove. After making this list, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. I expected several biomes to be way below the rest, while in reality, every biome had at least one redeeming quality. With only a 17-point difference between first and last place, I think you could call any of these biomes home. Tell me your favorite biome in the comments below. I think I'll be building over the Blood Kelp Trench, but that's a topic for another video. Anyway, that's all from me folks. I'll see you in the next one.